Hello and welcome to exercise 3 of KJ's crash course. I am KJ, here to bring you what we call the completion of the RPA challenge. If you've gone through exercises 1 and 2, you've learned how to build a basic UI automation. You've learned the concept of a variable. Now let's combine both of those together into building something like the RPA challenge here. The website is rpachallenge.com, so feel free to go ahead and go to that in your browser. And as you'll see, there are some instructions. So the goal is this challenge is to create a workflow that's going to input data from a spreadsheet. We're going to download that and take a look at it here in a minute. And then it says, beware, the fields change position on the screen. And then the actual countdown on the challenge begins when you click the start button. And until then, you could submit the form as many times as you want without penalties. Once you hit start, you actually see how well your automation did at the end. And as you noticed, I did click around all of that. As you may have noticed in the first and second exercises, when we highlight a specific field, there's a blue box that shows up with that. That's called an anchor. What has separated UiPath from really other products in the market, although you can do it with other products, is the ability to anchor to a static element on the screen. What's happening is that these actual tags on the back from an HTML perspective unfortunately change, which will cause brittle automations, which IT heads love to say is why UI automation doesn't work. We've fixed that, which is why you're able to build automations today, which is super awesome. Okay, but let's go through what this exercise would be, and then let's build it. So y'all can hang tight. First thing you're going to do, actually, if you want to go ahead and do this now, is you're going to download this Excel. You can leave it in your downloads folder. That's not a problem, right? And then let's open it up and let's do this manually, okay? Oh, yes, I do want to install that. If you get that prompt, feel free to install that. It's going to be really great down the line. Okay, so we have this data set and we can see, okay, we have a first name, last name, company name, etc. So if I was going to do the challenge, I would do it like this. I would click start and then I would try to see how fast I can put in all of these fields, which I'm sure you're going to notice unless I am typing and I have two different screens. I feel like a robot's going to do this faster. I think IT Solutions is the role in company here. Oh, no, that's the company name. Role in company is analysts, IT Solutions. So you get the idea. It would take a little while to complete this, so I feel like building an automation would do faster, but just so we can see this, I'm going to crank the speed of the video right here to continue on to the next session so you can see how long and arduous this would take. I think I'm going to speed it up to like 5 times the speed, if not more.
Two hours later.
All right, so I am done finally here, and we can see that took me 289,289 milliseconds, which means 289 seconds, which I think if you do 300 divided by 60, it took me almost 5 minutes to copy and paste all that data, so pretty good. Feel like we could do faster. Ooh, vulnerability scan. I'm going to reboot later. Awesome. Cool. So then from that, let's reset it. Let's get back to the beginning and let's actually build this thing. Okay. So how we would do that is we are going to open up UiPath Studio. I have it pinned right there, but if you want to, just search Studio and it'll pop up right there. And then let's get this new window popped open here. And here we go. And just like the first exercise that we did, we are going to create a new process. I am going to call it RPA Challenge Exercise 3. Description, complete the RPA challenge with the Excel downloaded. Right, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to assume we have the data already there, and we're going to use it throughout our automation. Name, location, description, click create, and we will get started here in a minute. All right, so we're back into what we've created before, or what we've used to create rather, excuse me. We can see our activities there, maybe properties on the right, maybe you just have it off to the side. Doesn't really matter, whatever you decide to use. There we go. We have a blank sequence. So what we are going to do is we have to have this Excel downloaded prior to. You don't have to. You could clearly write an automation to download it and check, but for our purpose, it's not necessary. Okay. So if you haven't already, go to rpachallenge.com, click that download Excel, and make sure that you can find it in your downloads folder. Here, I've got two of them. They're both the same thing. Not a big deal. So there we go. Okay, so once you have that downloaded, go back into your exercise, and just like that first exercise, what do we need to do? We have to tell the robot what application we are using. So right there, we are going to pull in a use application/browser, indicate application to automate, and you'll see we're going to spy this. And just like we remember, it'll tell you the browser window you're using, and it'll give you the URL of the website specifically. Awesome. Cool. Once we have done that, we want to start that timer, because that was the exercise that we did. So how would we do that? Well, if I manually would click it, wouldn't I tell the robot to click? Exactly right. So under UI automation application, we're going to pull in right here. We are going to click this click button. And then right there, we're going to click that start button and click confirm. And there we go. And you should see something that looks like this. Great. And then moving on here, what we need to do is then we need to tell the robot, okay, if we click that start button, what did we do next? Well, we copy and pasted from the data. Robots aren't going to copy and paste. What they're actually going to do is then read, and they're going to store it into memory and then loop through it, right? So how we do that is as follows. So if you search Excel, you'll see a bunch of activities that we have here. We are going to use, and you could type the whole thing in, we are going to use this Excel process scope activity. You could also pull in a single Excel process scope. We're just going to use the Excel process scope, okay? And remember, we're going to keep this inside of this do block, okay? That's important. Why? Remember, use browser. What are we going to do inside of that browser, or that window rather, okay? So we're going to pull in this Excel process scope, make sure it's inside of this do block, which it is, and now everything we do moving forward is going to be inside of this process scope box, okay? If you want to make it easier on yourself, you can double click into this activity, and then it'll be right here. Something super nice, and if you ever want to go back, you can just click main and go back and forth. Super cool little thing. Since it makes it a little bit cleaner when we build it, I'm actually going to double click into here moving forward, all right? Once we have the scope created, meaning this is everything's going to be in Excel moving forward, but we can go back because we know what's inside of it. Then what we're going to do is pull in this use Excel file, okay? And then just like you'd expect, what is the Excel file we want to use? You can click this button and just go browse for it. It will automatically redirect you to the project. So if you wanted to throw the Excel file in the project folder, you could. Not always going to be the case though. So I'm just going to go to downloads and then click challenge, or I'll click challenge 1 because that's the one we just downloaded. Okay. And then right there, you can check save changes or create if not exist. Super cool little feature. If the workbook that you maybe are interacting with didn't exist, you can always use that and create it moving forward. Cool little feature, not going to be necessary for the exercises. Okay. And you can see it'll give you the path as to where that is, save changes, and then we can even go a level deeper. And what are we going to do with this Excel file? Well, what we need to do is iterate through all those rows of data. Okay. So how we do that is there's an activity called for each Excel row. So you're going to pull that in. And then we're going to check the has headers because we did see a first name, last name, company name, role and company, etc. And then in range, what's really cool with our tool is that we integrate directly with some of the Microsoft suite. So if we hit this plus button, we can see we're referencing this sheet as Excel. So we can click Excel, and then we could do a couple things. We could indicate in Excel, custom input, or click sheet 1. Let me show you the add-in real quick. We're all going to choose sheet 1, but let me show you this feature because it is pretty cool to use. So if we click this indicate in Excel, remember that add-in I had to add in the beginning of this? What it's actually going to do is allow us to choose a section. So right there, you see how it says current selection A1 to G11. So maybe you don't need all the data from your spreadsheet. That's totally fine. You could specify your range right here. And then you have the add-in, we click confirm, and then it'll pull me back and give me the range specifically. Alternatively, what we could do is choose custom input the sheet name, input the range address. You could choose a specific table if it had one. You could choose a pivot table. You could choose a specific sheet. That's what we had. All of the options are available. Super, super cool integration. So when you're interacting with Excel, which chances are if you're going to try and export some data, you're probably going to have it in that format anyway. Super cool little feature to build automations on top of, and you'll see why that's important here in a minute. So let's grab that sheet right there, leave it as is. You could specify the range. Either way, it's going to work. And then from that, what do we need to do? Well, for each row of data, we need to, right, input all of that into the corresponding fields. So how we do that is, you guessed it, type into. Super awesome. So just like we saw before, we used a click in the first exercise, we used a type into in the first exercise, and oh wait, we're using it again. Who would have thought? So then you'll pull that in, and we're going to rinse and repeat this for every field inside of all of that. So there's 7 fields, so we're going to rinse and repeat this. So indicate in Chrome, you could choose Excel as well, but we know it's in Chrome. We're going to start with first name. You're going to notice it's going to create our target for us. We click confirm, and then here's where the rubber meets the road. Before we had a variable, right? We're going to use this same concept to pull the data directly from Excel. So what you can do is that we could type in something, but we don't know it's going to be Jane every time. We don't know if it's going to be whatever. We could create a variable, string variable. We could do that, but that data doesn't have anything, and we're not going to store it every time. So what's really cool when you interact with Excel is that we can hit this, and then, oh wait, for each row of data, look at that. It pulls all that data for us in real time. So you literally, when you're interacting with Excel, assuming it has headers, or even if it didn't, you can go current row, column A, column B, column C, column D. Super, super effective when interacting with Excel. Love our activities for that. This was one of the coolest things that I think we came up with years ago, and I use it all the time. So current row, and then first name. And then just like you'd expect, we're just going to repeat that for all the fields that are there. So after first name, do last name. You can follow this in any order that you want. It actually doesn't matter. So feel free to go ahead. I'm going to speed up the video here a little bit because I think it's pretty self-explanatory what you're doing here. Let me do another one doing a copy and paste so you can see what that looks like. But other than that, I think you're going to be able to follow the rest of this with the video. Like I said, I'm going to speed it up, and then once we come back, we will finalize the submit button, and then we're going to run it and see how well it worked. So click confirm, and then company name, and then just change that to company name. Okay. All right, and now to finalize this, to complete the loop, we need to click that submit button. So that will allow us to know that we've input the first row of data. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Pull in a click activity. Here we go. Nope, wrong way. Oh, geez. There we go. And then we indicate in Chrome. We click that submit button. And assuming we've done everything properly up to this point, that should be the automation completed. Let's go back to main, but you could just run it where it was at. Have this be open. If it's not open, once again, the parameter that you will need to check is close and change that to never. I'm just going to leave that just as a best practice anyway. If you remember, properties pane to the right, click close. But otherwise, go ahead and run this bad boy, and we'll see if this works. And I believe it is going to operate faster than as if we were trying to type them in and or copy and paste them. finalize that right here. We go back to here, we got our 100%, and we did it in 68,650 milliseconds, which is 68 seconds, a whole 5 times faster than if I could do it manually. So that right there is the RPA challenge. To summarize what we went through, same activities as exercise 1. Use browser, application/browser, clicks, and then our type intos inside of the Excel stuff. New terminology all revolves around Excel with your Excel process scope to make sure we have all of our activities involving Excel here. What Excel file do we use with the use Excel file? And our first iteration of dealing with data tables using a direct integration for each Excel row, which is a loop specific to an Excel spreadsheet. If you've done that, congratulations. Feel free to move on to exercise 4, where we edit this exercise. And what we actually do is read that challenge file from an email message instead of having the Excel downloaded, and then use that throughout the automation, which will be super cool. If you want to take this a step further, 68 seconds is still kind of slow. There is a bonus exercise that you can see below here in the description that is actually going to tell us or have us make this automation faster. And then there is another bonus where instead of actually using the Excel activities, we learn VB expressions and allow us to do it with those expressions instead, never even opening up the Excel file whatsoever, which will be super, super cool as well. Otherwise, this is KJ signing off. Congratulations on completing the RPA challenge, and I hope to see you either taking the bonus exercises or see you for exercise 4. Cheers, y'all.